And so Dr. Leventhal is a trained archaeologist, anthropologist, ethnohistorian. During the early 1970s, Alan had worked at the American Museum of Natural History in New York in the departments of anthropology and education. Mr. Leventhal completed his undergraduate degree in anthropology at City College of New York and did graduate work at City University of New York and at San Jose State University. He had also worked as the state archaeologist at the Nevada Archaeological Survey in the University of Nevada, Reno, and taught classes there. In 1978, a national forest, Alan briefly worked as a Forest Service archaeologist in the Laysan National Forest before coming to San Jose State University in 1978, where he spent 9 years in the Department of Anthropology as the Anthropology Lab Director. From 1987 until his retirement from San Jose State in 2019, Alan worked on the administrative staff in the Office of the Dean, College of Social Sciences, while continuing to teach as a lecturer about contemporary Native American issues and topics on advanced methods and theory in archaeology in the anthropology department. He has lectured and conducted archaeological investigations in New York, Georgia, Nevada, California, and Hawaii. His principal study was titled A Reinterpretation of Some Bay Area Shell Mound Sites, A View from the Mortuary Complex from CALA 329, the Ryan Mound. He is also the author of numerous publications on Bay Area archaeology and California Indian ethnohistory, as well as the military service history of the Muwekma Ohlone Tribe. For the past 42 years, he has worked with the Muwekma Ohlone Tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area as a tribal ethnohistorian and senior staff archaeologist. Mr. Leventhal has also worked as a volunteer from 92 to 98 on the congressionally created H.R. 2144 Advisory Council on California Indian Policies Unrecognized Tribal Task Force, and was the National Congress of American Indians Recognition Task Force 2006. He was also one of the few advocates for the previously federally recognized tribes in the state. Alan has also worked closely with other tribes throughout California as they seek restoration and reaffirmation of their tribal status. He has also served as the ethnohistorian and archaeologist for two other previously federally recognized tribes, the Amamutsan tribal band of the Castanoan Indians since 1989, centered around Mission San Juan Bautista, and the Ohlone Castanoan Esselen Nation since 1992, centered around the greater Monterey Bay region. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Alan Leventhal via the Zoom. Are we all set, Lauren? I think we're getting everything ready, so give us a moment.
Thank you. I'm Alan Leventhal, tribal ethnohistorian, and I'm going to contextualize a visual odyssey of my involvement with the tribe since 1980. So this will also include some of the evidence that the tribe submitted to the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the 1990s. So I can move this ahead. Back from extinction was also a term that the tribe has used. It's an overview of the Muwekma Ohlone tribal history, including a sampling of evidence that was submitted to the Department of the Interior for the federal acknowledgement process, which is spelled 25 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 83. And as was stated earlier, Al Kroeber, his legacy, which he published in 1925 through the Bureau of American Ethnology, he wrote the Costanoan group is extinct for all practical purposes are concerned. And in 1980, I met the woman on the right, which is Charlene Nishma's mom, Rosemary Camera, who introduced me to her mother, Dolores Sanchez. And she said she was an Ohlone Indian, and I came to San Jose State in 1978. And I said, I really don't know anything about your people. I've never heard of you. And she said, well, I'm an Ohlone Indian. We went to the library, pulled out Kroeber's handbook on California Indians. We read his statement that the Costanoan group is extinct for all practical purposes. And I said, you must be from some other tribe. And she said, I beg to differ with you and Dr. Kroeber. I am an Ohlone Indian. My mother's an Ohlone Indian. She was born on the Sunol Rancheria in 1911 and baptized at Mission San Jose in 1912, as well as other members of the various families. So I said, what do you want me to do then? She said, we want help in researching out our genealogies through the mission records, and also to deal with various kind of legal issues in archaeology, because the local archaeological firms would not permit the Muwekmas to be on any of their ancestral heritage sites. So who are the Muwekma Ohlone? They are a tribe comprised of all the surviving Native American lineages who are aboriginal to the greater San Francisco Bay region, and whose ancestors were missionized into Mission Dolores, Santa Clara, and San Jose, and who comprise the historic BIA documented, federally recognized Verona Band of Alameda County. The Muwekma became federally recognized after the discovery of the 1851-1852 treaties and through Congressional Homeless California Appropriation Acts of 1906, 1908, and through other federal actions during later years. So California became a repository of almost all of the major language groups or families in above Mexico, including the Aztecans, and the Muwekmas are considered the Northern Coast Genoa speakers, and so their territory was circum San Francisco Bay, all the way down to around Morgan Hill. During the visits of distinguished European visitors, this was from the ship, the Rurik, the Russian scientific ship, the Rurik, in 1816. A artist on board named Luis Choris was able to sketch and later on color tint and paint the various regalia and the people residing at Mission Dolores. You can see by the complexity of both the symbolism, such as the fellow in the center, the duality between two different colors, which symbolically could refer to their moiety system of land and water, but also the complex featherwork. The world would change for California Indian people when this handsome dude, who is the Duke of Naples, he became King Carlos III of Spain under the House of the French, the Bourbon kings. He was an adept administrator, and it is he who sent the various expeditions in 1769 into Alta California because of the encroachment of other European and Americans in Spanish territories in the Americas, at least North America. So we know about the Portola expedition and the Dienza expeditions that came up from the south. One of the military commanders was Pedro Fejas, who gave us a very deep description in his 1775 publication, A Historical, Political, and Natural Description of California. And he tells us something about their socio-cultural complexity, which also challenges Kroger's single village communities as the unit of complexity, the tribelet. Besides the chief of villages, they have in every district another who commands 4 or 5 villages together, the village chiefs being his subordinates. Each of them collects every day in his village the tributes which the Indians pay him in seeds, fruits, game, and fish. The subordinate captain is under obligation to give his commander notice of every item of news or occurrence. So this gives us a first-hand pre-mission account of the sociocultural complexity, which we can call kind of ranked chiefdoms. So San Francisco Bay area were a client of related languages, and in the San Francisco Bay there was a ship called the San Carlos. It was a packet that circumnavigated San Francisco Bay, and up where you see the Carquin area, which is northern Ohlone, this is the ship. A part of the crew landed, and they made notes of their encounters, saying there was an authority over all these Indians whose kingly presence marked his eminence above the rest. Our men made a landing, and when they had done so, the Indian chief address a long speech to them. These were the proper rules of behavior for dealing with distinguished guests. They had a feast, and then they saw a large number of heathen approaching, all armed with bows and arrows. They noted that the number of Indians who had gathered together was itself alarming enough. There were more than 400 of them, and all or most of them were of good height and well built. So it tells us something about they had military capability as well. This is a tourist painting of the Chobolone warriors in the adjacent area near Mount Diablo. Mission San Francisco, established in 1776. Again, the Ohlones there were subject to visitations, and also we have these wonderful renderings. They were transformed by the missionization, wearing now cotton cloth. And the fellow in the lower right, his hair is shorn and irregular. He is in mourning. They would burn their hair or cut their hair, and the life expectancy was only a few years. Someone in your family was dead within several years. Mission Santa Clara was established or founded January 12th, 1777. And the third mission, which is the Muwekma mission, there's an estimated 6,000 Indian burials between 1781 to 1818. That's a lot of death and burials. Mission San Jose was established in proximity to Pueblo de San Jose and Mission Santa Clara for protection. They couldn't go further up the East Bay because those East Bay Indians who went to Mission San Francisco fled the mission. And there at Mission San Jose's Indian Cemetery, there were around 4,000 Indian neophyte burials. All the way to 1925, they were being buried at the cemetery. During an earlier Russian expedition, the Langsdorff expedition, here again we see the complexity of color and dualities and regalia. During the period of time, up until around 1834, Indian runaways were rounded up by the Spanish military, supported by Indian auxiliaries, which obviously created tensions amongst the Indians of the missions. We looked at earlier, Lope Inigo is getting one of the land grants. What is interesting is on the historic maps, you can see by Mountain View, it says Inigo Reservation. So it wasn't really a real reservation, but it was a major land grant. Some of the powerful elites who interfaced with the various ancestral Ohlones include Antonio Maria Sonol. The town of Sonol is named after him, and he married one of the Burnell sisters, the sister of Juan Pablo Burnell. He was a powerful elite. He was a co-owner of Rancho Valle de San Jose near Pleasanton, which will have future ramifications for the tribe. And then another one was Antonio Maria Pico, who was the alcalde of San Jose, and he married another Burnell sister. So at Mission San Jose Santa Clara, which was mentioned earlier, Maria de Los Angeles Colos, his parents were married between 1838, and she was born around 1839, and she died, we don't have her death record, in around 1929. The world would change again when this man was sent by his father-in-law, Senator Thomas Benton, to seize California in 1846. President Polk had sent the military after the annexation of Texas in 1849. The military arrived near Mexico City with cannon, threatening to destroy Mexico City if they did not cede the area of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Under that treaty, the rights of Native people and the rights of Spanish-speaking people and their land ownership would have been protected.